We're live this time around. It's not been my best day for like being a tech guy or whatever. I kind of went ahead and started and didn't know I was live and went off and got some things done while you got to listen to a commercial. But that's okay. I'm back, better than ever. So we are starting to ink a new page, and you better watch out, because it's gonna get crazy. In this page, this is where this sort of bad girl character named Vexed, V-E-X-T, she uses her magical powers to fight a character called Sheepdog, who's sort of a boogaloo boy type character, a nationalist, kind of a civic nationalist would be more appropriate. And in the previous page, he shoots a machine gun at her. She uses like a force field that turns the bullets into bees or wasps, and then they come back and attack him. And so he's kind of being, he's dealing with that. So he pulls his handgun out, and she uses a little magic and turns it into a scorpion, which bites his hand, and she's laughing at it. And that triggers him. Now he loses his shite, and he hulks out into the sheepdog character, which is like a werewolf type character. And you kind of see a transition or transformation into this character. And then you have these two characters that look up and see him, and they both say at the same time, "Oh shit," So then the next page looks a little bit like this. Hold on. Then, she gets hers. She gets her just desserts. Anyway, there it is, and there you go, and now you know. So, earlier today, I did a live stream. I haven't done like a political commentary live stream in a long time. This one, hold on, let me turn that down a little. What was it? So it was on Elon Musk throwing Romans at the inauguration yesterday. And the internet's like on fire right now with that. Like there's a lot of memes and GIFs and articles and commentary on it. So I urge everybody to go look up that live stream, Elon Musk throwing Romans. So I give my 2 cents on the topic, little kind of meta political analysis, and then I kind of shoot off into some other related topics, such as what's going to become of the dissident right during the new Trump administration. What's the plan? There's no, we're decentralized. There's no plan. You have camps. You have influencers with their followers. You got people in different countries, like Joel Davis in Australia and Mark Collett in UK, Keith Woods in Ireland. Things are getting extremely ugly in Ireland. I just saw a horrible news report that the government is arming former Taliban soldiers to become a kind of police force in the streets of Ireland. I mean, are we there already? Are we literally there? It appears so. So I knew this was coming. I think a lot of us, we thought like, this just can't be real. This just can't be real. And it's real. And so I don't know what to say. That it's going to be streets of blood, though. That I know. I just pray for our people that they can overcome this swiftly. So Trump, that's the big, that's the word of the day. Whole lot of Trump going on. I've been pretty clear, that I recognize Trump as the deep state Trojan horse. I did actually see two conflicting news stories, and it's kind of sad that when you see something good, you don't believe it. You're like, oh, that's got to be fake, and that's kind of where we're at. But there was one news article that said something to the effect of, Trump is discontinuing the billions of dollars in aid that will be sent to Israel. And I mean, everybody did a rubberneck on that. They were like, what? That can't be real, And then I saw some other report saying that, aid to foreign countries is stopping except for Egypt, Jordan, and Israel. I don't know why Jordan. I should look into that. That sounds more, more like the status quo. As sickening as it is, as much as I despise it, it is the status quo. It's a little thing called taxation without representation. Anyway, but I would say that, I do recognize the good things that Trump is doing. It appears that, there was a list. Somebody on Reddit posted a list of everything Trump did on day one, and all of those things were good things, according to my standards. He also, what were some of those things off the top of my head? Oh, well, letting out the J6ers, I think, is pretty huge. I had stated before, if he doesn't do that on day frickin' one, he's a joke. And I'm glad that he did that, so that's quite good. Saying that the government only recognizes, hey, Spontornian is here. Welcome, Spontornian. Your art is amazing. Well, golly gee. Since you are so kind, I will give you a little show of my art book, Imperium Calling. It's kind of early in the show, so there's not really a lot of people here. They've seen the book dozens of times. Oh, there are more people here now that I see. Anyway, let's do a quick tour of my book. This is on Amazon. If you go to the, You go to the homepage of this YouTube. There's a link to my my website, and from there you can link out to pick up a copy of this book, Imperium Art. I've got each chapter has each section has a little intro, my interest in comics. Yes, I made that. All of the art in here is my art. I wouldn't publish a book with somebody else's art in it and put my name on it. So these are some of my comics. I also do fantasy illustration. I've done freelance art for many, many years. Just when you're a freelancer, no way, that's so cool. Oh, cool. I'm happy you enjoy it. Yeah, I would suggest, hunting around my YouTube, because especially go to the shorts section, what YouTube shorts are, and there's a lot of this kind of art with really cool filters and music, and it's just a lot of fun. I need to be doing more of those shorts. They're super cool. But also concept art, fine art, art themed on Western civilization, white well-being, white identity politics, mythology, many things, many things. So grab yourself a copy of Imperium Calling today. Anyway, let's get back to work here. How did you find this channel, Spontornian? That is an interesting name. Maybe you can explain what it means. We got like 8 people lurking. You guys can say hi, you know? Don't be rude. Say hi in the chat. I think some of my regular crowd might have thought that like I wasn't streaming because like I had kind of screwed up, and then I like turned that off and restarted. So hopefully they'll come back. We tend to have pretty lively conversation in the chat on this channel. And let's see, I was just scrolling through shorts. Oh, and I came across you. Well, golly gee. It is your lucky day today. Are you a comic book fan? So, I don't obviously just do comics. There's a lot of other content here. But this is one of my great passions. I always say that comics are the poor man's filmmaking. Comics are the poor man's filmmaking. So you're a comic book writer, illustrator. Of course, you write the story, the dialogue. You design all the characters. You are the cameraman, the choreographer, the set designer, the director, the storyboard artist, lighting. You know, it's all of those jobs with just your pencil. You know, so I think that it's a really wonderful art form, like a really, really great art form. And I might actually pull out some of I've got like some really cool comics magazines that are handy. And it's fun once in a while to take a little break and just look at some comics to kind of throw some fuel on the fire, you know? So, yeah, I love comic books ever since I was a kid. It sure is. So, what comics do you like? Give us a couple examples. And there's, you know, I think you like different comics as you grow older, you know, and there's, sometimes there'll be like a really good writer on a certain book or team or something, a character, and then suddenly you like really get into that character and be like, oh wow, I love that. Years ago, so like I was into comics as a kid, but then kind of, you know, my interest started going into music. I was learning how to play guitar, bass guitar, singing, songwriting. And I was still drawing, but I don't know. I think I felt like when I hit like 14 or something, I was like, you know, girls don't like guys that read comic books. I gotta put that away. And that was really, I kind of regret that. I actually gave my comic book collection to my brother, and he almost lost his hat. He was like, oh my God, you're giving me your comic book collection. Like, oh my God, you know. And that was, he still has it, the son of a gun, you know. He won't give it back to me. But anyway, so whatever, years later, I got back into comics, and one of the big things that at the time that I was really into was Hellboy. So I always thought Hellboy was such a wonderful, unique character. I don't know what it is this sort of, it's sort of like a character. I think of him as like the inverse of Jesus. Like he's the son of Satan, but he doesn't want to be. He helps humanity. He doesn't want to be a monster. He doesn't want to fulfill his so-called destiny as like the bringer of hell on earth or whatever. And so he kind of fights his own nature, and that's not the opposite of Jesus, but like I don't know, I just kind of had there's certain parallels, I guess is what you might say. Moving on, who else is here? Look who's here. Oh my gosh. Now I read more mangas and webtoons, something that's easy to pull up on my phone, right? Splattercat's here. Great to have you. T-Rad Dad. The raddest dad ever. Hey, Mr. Kent. Interesting story. So as I was, kind of teaching myself how to draw comics, at one point I saw that the creator of Hellboy was appearing at the Big Apple Con in a comic book convention in New York City. So I got my art portfolio together with my comic book samples, and I took a trip to New York City, which I had lived in New York City earlier, so it wasn't like totally new to me, to go to that convention and meet him and show him my portfolio. That was for me at the time, it was my first comic book convention. It's New York City. I mean, it's full on, and there's many, many famous comic book artists and writers there. I got to meet this guy named Alex Maleev, who is famous for his work on Daredevil. He is, if you're into Marvel comics in like whatever back then or whatever, you'd know he was like he's a big dog, whatever. It's a really interesting style. He's one of the first guys to kind of utilize Photoshop, where he would take photos around New York City, and then somehow it's like he has a secret recipe where he would manipulate the images and kind of draw over them, and then use them as the backdrop for the Daredevil comics. And I'm telling you, it was like massively, massively popular because it was so realistic and so gritty and, based on real locations. Very, very cool. So when I met him, I nerded out like insane. I was like, oh. No, I didn't. I didn't act like a fool. but I mean, I was nerding out. Like, oh my God, I am like a massive fan of you. It turns out he's from Romania, which I found very interesting. I didn't know that. And we got to talking. He does martial arts. I do martial arts. It was just a great, great, great experience. Let's see. Hey, brother Kent, how's it going? Awesome drawing. Keep up the great work. Mr. Shadow is here. The Shadow is back. Good to see you, man. But to get back to the Mike Mignola thing, so, sup everybody, Gondorian is here. Let the party begin. So I took a trip to New York City. It was my first comic book convention to meet my favorite creator, Mike Mignola of Hellboy. And I'm waiting in line and just like sitting there and like looking at him in the flesh is kind of trippy, because these people are like rock stars to me, And I'm sort of kind of rehearsing what I'm gonna say when I meet him, because I'm like, you get nervous. I mean, try to imagine if you were to see your favorite rock star or whatever. So, and the dude is super, super down to earth. Like, he's not pretentious in any way whatsoever. Very, very cool dude. And he's like, hey, he's very grateful for my fandom or whatever, and this and that, and very gracious. And so I'm like, okay, so, here's my story. I, was really into fine art for a long time. I lived in Asia, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm teaching myself how to do comic book illustration now. Here's my portfolio, tell me what you think. And he gravitated to more of the fine art work, meaning like you don't have to draw comic book style. You don't, that's just not, you don't have to do that. You don't, it doesn't have to look like industry style. In fact, it's better if you don't. Like, turn it into something unique and exciting and that's got an extra bang to it. And so, like, at one point he said, there's no advice I can give you, which is a pretty flattering thing to say. And he pointed out one specific drawing that I had done with this really kind of unique technique and look to it, a unique aesthetic that, looking back, I'm kind of like, yeah, I could or should, you know, work that, like get back to doing that or something. And I don't know, it's just, and then he gave me like a free calendar, and we just kind of had like a really good moment together there. It was wonderful. So I felt really, really happy, really satisfied. Let's see. It seems like your art is inspired by the Marvel series. I would say yes. Dude, that's tough. Joe Mama's here. What's tough? Which part's tough? I could tell you there's also actually a bad experience that happened. It's not a bad experience, but it's like, I'll just tell you this story, and you'll understand what I mean. So there's these two other guys, and I'm actually going to say their names. A lot of times I don't, but anyway, I'm just going to do it. So Justin Gray, he's an artist, and then Jimmy Palmiotti, who's a writer. He was an inker for a while. So Jimmy is a sweet, down-to-earth guy, but I think Justin Gray is more of the kind of like, he strikes me as just more of the MMA bully kind of personality. I'm a tough guy kind of guy, something like that. And like, you know, I have done kung fu for years and years and years. I'm not intimidated by anybody. Like nobody. Not only that, like my fine art background is extremely deep and rich, and I have total confidence in myself. So you can't say anything to me that's going to hurt my feelings. But I'm kind of the newbie though, and what's his face? Justin Gray decides like, oh, I'm gonna make an example out of this guy, and so. Because you go table to table showing your work to the different artists and try to get their advice on blah, blah, blah. How can I work for Marvel and DC? I want to be like you. Anyway, he's like looking at my work and he's just saying like something to the effect of like it's bad, and he's saying like this isn't comic book art. Like you and I. He's like, I see, obviously, you have a huge fine art background. And I think that intimidated him. Like, maybe he felt that, like I went to college for art and I actually know, Renaissance techniques for illustration or for drawing and these. I don't know. And I don't have any I wasn't trying to, offend or hurt anybody or threaten anybody. I obviously was very respectful. But he started raising his voice at me and just like tearing into me. And like everyone in the vicinity, kind of perked their ears up and they started like gathering around, because he was making a scene out of me. You know what I'm saying? And hey, Lou, thanks for joining. We're doing some fun comics and talking about one of my experiences at Comic-Con in New York City. And stay tuned. It's kind of a fun show. And feel free to ask questions or chat as you like, whatever you're into. So I'm standing there and I can see that like a crowd is starting to kind of form around us, and people want to see the big show, Justin Gray is like tearing this guy a new one. Yeah, he's like a new artist and he's going to insult him and make a show out of like that. So I just kind of zen out, I just stay cool as a cucumber, just okay, just nodding my head. I'm listening. I'm trying to get some constructive criticism. He says, like, you can't go from fine art to comic book illustration. It's like going from piano to violin. You can't do that. And this contradicts what Mike Mignola had just told me like an hour before. But again, I took like that kind of Zen sort of like, is that so? Is that so? Is that so? I just was Mr. Chill. And, it's a thing that happened. And it's one of these things that are like, if you're into sort of the comics world, that such things do happen. Like it's kind of, there's famous artists that talk about, like, oh, that time I met Neil Adams and he chewed me out in front of everybody at this portfolio review, or blah blah blah. It's just a thing. It just exists in that industry. I don't really know why people need to be so mean about that. I never really, like, what are you so upset about? Why do you feel? I guess it's a power trip, maybe. It's a kind of, they get to stand on a podium and act like somebody special, and they get to, bully people. I don't know. But I look back on it and I just think it makes a great story. So I don't know if I ever have to meet Justin Gray. I might have to fight him or something. Shit, I don't know. I'm kidding. And he's a good artist. Justin Gray's a great artist. He's not like my favorite or something like that. But he's highly capable. He's a pro. Him and Jimmy Palmiotti did some really great books together for a while. So what's next? Guys are saying hi. Did you go to another convention after that? Oh, very, very many. In fact, I worked comic book conventions. When that was just sort of like in the beginning of my time, learning how to draw. And then once I got, well, I should say draw comics, not draw. I've always known how to draw. Where the hell did it go? Looking for a ruler. Crap, I can't find it. Anyway, so I finally got up to speed and was doing freelance work. I was doing my own comics. And one of the things with comic book conventions is that you make art prints and then you sell the prints, and that's like a way to make money. You know what I'm saying? So, in my case, I worked as a caricature artist at a theme park for 5 years. And so I got special training in how to do caricature portraits. So it's really fun. Everybody loves it. It's not something you can buy in a store. Sit down 5 minutes later, you got a fun cartoon of yourself. It could be you and your friends. I can work from a photo. I could draw you as a ninja or a hockey player or a ballerina or whatever you want. It's just a lot of fun. So what I would do at Comic-Cons is I would set up my caricature layout, and then I'd have a table filled with different prints of various art that I made, let's say if whatever the new movie that is coming out, the big popular new movie, I would do, artwork from that movie. It's say like Endgame with Thanos or something, and I would, do a portrait of Thanos in like a cool comic book style, and stuff like that, And then while people are sitting down having their caricature drawn, then their friends are looking through the prints, and or if somebody is like, well, I'm not sure I want to have my caricature done, then you say, well, you know what, if you do, I'll throw in a free print because I saw you were looking at that Spider-Man art over there and you really want it. Oh, okay. Wow, I get a free Spider-Man print. Okay, yeah, I'll do it, and they drop the money. And I could make like one weekend, like a Comic-Con would be, like Friday night, all of Saturday, and then probably all of Sunday. Well, Sunday up to like 5. Anyway, the most I made in a weekend was $900. That's freaking crazy. $900, dude, for 2.5 days of drawing caricatures and selling art prints. I cleaned up, dude. I cleaned up. That's, is that. I was always like, man, I need this every weekend. I need a Comic-Con every damn weekend. I'd be set. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And then the other side of Comic-Cons is you get to meet like famous actors, and you don't always meet them in the sense that you would like actually talk to them and have a conversation. You do in many cases. I have, but a lot of times it's more like you see them and they're like 2 feet away from you, like William Shatner or they're just people from Lord of the Rings or this, that, and the other thing. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty phenomenal to kind of be able to see actors like that and kind of chat with them. It's just fun, And then of course you become friends with like the other creators that work these shows. And there was actually one time where one of the regulars he brought like a bottle of whiskey. Oh jeez. And we were like sneaking drinks during the day throughout the show, and like at one point I'm like, I cannot draw and be drinking, like this is not right, Of course we would get kicked out of the place if they knew we were doing that, but that's just kind of playful, really playful. And a lot of times afterwards, you go out and stuff, this and that and the other thing. One interesting story. Do you guys know the actress Erin Gray? She was you'd have to be a little old to know who she is, but she was in the Buck Rogers TV show. She was very, very beautiful when she was young, and I met her, just like, oh hi, something, and in the course of our conversation, I come to find out that she was a pretty serious student of Tai Chi. And that's a kind of Chinese martial art. And I was like, oh, fascinating. We got to talking. And we hit it off really well. That was really neat. Like, I got to kind of really sort of talk to her as a real person, It was neat. So we got some comments that I gotta read the comments and catch up. There's a lot of a-holes in the comic book industry. Unfortunately, you are correct, Robert Pyle. But there's also a lot of cool people that I've met too in the comic book industry. Cool. How do you've been in the industry, Robert, or like you just met at Comic-Cons? Joe Mama says, did you enjoy the caricature thing? So that's a great question, and I'll segue into that because it's, 5 years as a caricature artist is a lot of fun stories. So, here I am, an art teacher, and I quit being an art teacher because it was really more like I worked in like an inner city school with violent criminal type kids, and it was really dangerous, and I was like, this is not what I signed up for. So I quit the profession. I hated it, I'll be honest with you. I don't hate teaching art, but I hated working in that demographic. It was awful, very, very stressful. Basically being bullied all day, and it's garbage. So moving on. So I don't know. I just happened to find an ad saying, looking for artists at this theme park. It's like something like 6 months a year. You you work outdoors, blah blah blah. So like I went and applied for the job, and I knew I was going to get the job. I've got very good drawing skills, and so it was quite a thing to be like, okay, it is an art form, and it's not just about being able to draw a cartoon likeness of a person, but it's about doing it under 5 minutes in an environment that's like, it's really really hot outside, and it's a theme park, so there's people running around and children and noise and all of it, like a fair, like some kind of that kind of environment. So there's a bit of pressure there, and then when you're done, you try to sell them a frame, and then another thing is like, you want more people in the image because you charge per head, so like, this is insane, dude, but I literally drew a family of 27 people on a huge sheet of paper, and every head was like the size of an egg, a little smaller than an egg, in order to fit 27 heads on this one huge piece of paper. This family happened to have like a family reunion, and I happened to be the lucky guy. And then on top of that, they ordered like a mahogany frame, which is super expensive. So in that one drawing, frick, how much money did I make? Oh my God. Let's say $20 times 27, if you got a calculator, because it was $20 a head, and then like a $40 frame on top of it. So I made like mad money at that time. But then there's days where it's slow, and there's days where it's raining, and you're outdoors in a theme park, so there's a lot of drunk people around, and every once in a while, you got to call security and all that shit. So, but at the same token, it's just girls, like girls in bikinis all day, and I took a lot of girls out in those 5 years. I don't want to get too detailed on that side of the story, but that was a fun time. So you're meeting people all day, and frankly, what it really boils down to is, I learned how to be a salesman. If someone's walking by the booth, and you can see that they're kind of looking at it, and they're like, this looks so cool, I've always wanted to do this, but I don't know how. So they want you to guide them through the sale, So this is sort of routines about, how you talk, doing the pitch, whatever, and you'll get different cases where it's like, the woman wants to do it, but the guy doesn't, and he's in a hurry to get somewhere, and she's whining, and like there's all kinds of like human dynamics that you have to kind of get accustomed to, and then know as a salesman how to exploit that. And I know that sounds kind of, but in the end, they get a customized portrait to remember their day together, and you can't buy that in a damn store. So like, everybody was so happy that they did it in the end, so that was cool. And what else? There were international students that would be like summer work study students, and a lot of them were Chinese. So I would take the Chinese out of the park and into the city, and show them around and get some food and try to do some fun cultural stuff. I'd kind of practice my Chinese with them. And those were fun times, you know, it was neat. I lived in Taiwan for 4 years, and I know what it's like to be in a foreign land, and, you know, it's nice to have someone who can kind of sweep you up and show you around, you know. Let's kind of check some chat here. I think you guys are really, sounds like you're chatting it up. Mr. Shadow, I don't know why people want to hate on art. It's not their opinion. The point of art is the fun of doing it. There you go. Lord of the Rings. What other people did you talk to? Quite a lot. I'll get back to that, Joe Mama. You hang tight. Mr. Pyle says, I used to go to conventions like you, sometimes just to meet people, sometimes to sell my art. Awesome sauce. Joe Mama says, what theme park was it? Well, that I cannot tell you, sir, because then I would dox my location. So $540 for that piece. Yeah, thank you for doing the math. Joe Mama says, what is the best way to make yourself known through your art pieces to the public? Big questions, my man. You're going there. This is not the easiest topic. It depends a lot on the kind of art that you have, the niche that you serve, if you will. Like, there's people that do like abstract art. There's people that do, fan art, manga or comics or what have you. There's traditional artists. There's the whole like postmodern conceptual art. Every one of these things is a little different because they're different markets. You're dealing with different. So like, give me a little more information about your art and your niche, and then I can try to customize an answer for you. Spontanean says, do you have any art friends to which you can draw each other's caricature and all? So here, I'm going to actually show you some of my caricature art. This is kind of a fun time to take a little break, and I'll show you. So hang on. Let's see. Oh, my lordy. Not that one. That's realistic. These are caricatures. So this is some caricature art pieces that I did. Friedrich Nietzsche. I got the Screaming Muslim. And you can kind of get a feel for that, political cartoon style. So one of the fun parts about working as a caricature artist at a theme park is that there's downtime, and then you're just hanging out with your coworkers. So what we would do is draw each other just for fun, just to kind of stay like tuned up, you know what I mean? And like, there'd be like rainy days or things where you knew you weren't going to get a lot of sales, but you had to be at work, Do you guys know who this is? 100 points for the first person that tells me who that guy is. And there's his shirt as a clue. So that would be fun. And then everyone's got a little different style. So, this one guy has more of a kind of like a superhero style. Another guy has like an Adventure Time style, if you guys know the cartoon Adventure Time. Another guy is very Walt Disney, has this sort of Walt Disney. Julian Assange. 100 points goes to Spider-Cat. So, those were cool things. So, once again, not Snowden, no. I swear I've seen that face. Yes, you have in the news. So there was a time when I was trying to make it as a, quote, fine artist in New York City. And I had been developing a portfolio of what you would call modern art, and it's frankly kind of cliche, to an extent. I can say that now. It's like in a lot of people in that genre, what they do is they kind of do like collages of different images, and it's you use certain types of materials that make it interesting to look at, and kind of is organic, and this and that. And it's really up to the gallery owners and the critics and such to, make up some bullshit about it, to make it look, this art is so important and so deep because it deals with these issues of blah, 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 blah. And so much of the New York fine art establishment is just that, It's just not, they're not the kind of people that I want to have anything to do with. Excuse me. So it was very disillusioning as a young man to move to New York City and then discover that it was so political and that my work didn't fit into their politics, and so the whole thing was a flop. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. Excuse me. Again, I'd have to know what kind of art you're doing in order to give you any reasonable advice. Let's see. How is fine art classified, like realism? So, fine art is an umbrella term for, excuse me, you could say that this is fine art, It uses. See, now this is representative, though, whereas like you could, I don't know. I suppose you could say that abstract art is a form of fine art. It's not illustration, Abstract art is modern art. You can get into art history classifications. When did modernism start? It's, you could say like, Paul Klee and Gustav, people that, after photography happened, it radicalized, not radicalized, it changed art, okay? And they didn't need to make images that you can see in the world. They could start creating surrealism and Dadaism and, expressionism, abstract expressionism, all of these things. But then after all of that, we end up circling back to this, which is just, it's kind of, I would say fine art is very much just about like humanity, the human experience. Whereas illustration is about telling a story. When you look at something like this, there's a story there. Now, fine art can have a story, but illustration leans heavily into fantasy, mythology of these kinds, things of this nature, This is not fine art right here. Although the skills that I learned in my fine art training appear in this, or this, but this is illustration. So illustration tells a story, Does that answer the question? I hope it does. It's a very good question, though. Yeah, I would say that fine art is more, it's like the opposite of commercial art. That's actually an excellent point you're making. It really should serve the human spirit, if you know what I mean. Like it's not, whereas commercial art is for profit. You know what I'm saying? That has its place. That's a thing, But I would say fine art is more respectable. You know what I'm saying? When you go to a museum or a gallery, you expect to see fine art. You know what I'm saying? If you open up a magazine of, like a music magazine, you might find pop art or, you know, fashion photography or, cell phone commercials or, you know what I'm saying? Like the graphic design and all of those things, they all kind of melt and into each other and cross over into each other. Let's read some more. How's everybody here doing? Okay, an umbrella term, many types. Fine art is the classification of fine art. Realism is a style of under fine art. Correct. Moving on. Illustration from what I understand is fine art, but many consider commercial art. Yeah, I actually had my fine art teacher in college, because I was an art major. When I first showed her my work, she was like, "Wow, you get an A+. Like, this is great work." And then she paused for a second and she said, "It's very illustrative, but it's good work." And she said it like it was an insult. Like, it's very illustrative, and like poo poo, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I know I'm supposed to be offended by that, but I'm not sure why. I mean, I was young and didn't know a lot about these things, I'm kind of a young college student. And, so I was like, well, whoa, wait a minute here. Why are you, what does that mean? What are you saying? So she's like, oh, well, put your artwork up in front of the class and we'll talk about it. Now, this is the same professor I told you about the other night who would like shred students in front of everybody and make them come to tears and make them quit the art department. She could be very, very cruel, Now, again, that doesn't impact me. I have too much confidence, But there it is, it's out there. Anyway, I guess I don't know if I'm losing track of what I'm saying. I'm going to read some more comments. So what do you think of corporate art? As an artist, I imagine it probably hurts your very soul to see it be everywhere. You know, when you say corporate art, I think of that as like the cheap paintings that you see in I don't know what type of stores you have where you live, but they have like these discount dollar stores that people go to get, just cheap stuff. Like instead of going to the regular supermarket, you'll go there to pick up, whatever you need, And a lot of those stores will have these cheap, like, they're not, how do I say, they're canvases, but there's some kind of a machine that just prints, just like rubber stamps the artwork onto the canvases. So it's like fake art in that regard, And, you see a lot of that at like doctor's offices. It's like, every once in a while you'll see one that's like, oh, that's a nice design or something. But overall, though, they're just literally meant to like, what is like, what images do people want to see so that they'll buy this? Which is literally the opposite of like the purpose of art. Artists have their one true job is to be true to themselves. It's certainly okay, obviously, to farm out your skills for money. I did it for years. I still do it, but much, much more selectively now. I'm just going and going here. What do you think of corporate? Do you have a story writer, or is this whole project you're doing on your own? This is my own story. I could pull up some pages. Here, let me show you at least one image. Give me a sec. This is kind of like I'm not going to use this as the cover art, but it's something like could be the back cover, for example, or like an interior art, like a poster of Militiaman. So if you look, you see this, sort of Americana superhero flying with golden guns over this crowd of people, this like a mob, and they've got tiki torches. So there's some sort of angry mob thing happening here. And who's in the mob? Well, you've got people who have been disenfranchised by the woke brigade, by the anti-white machine. You've got Christian nationalists. You've got civic nationalists and boogaloo boys. You've got inner city people, country people, and they're raising their fists and they're marching on some place to express, their anger about being having their rights taken away, being marginalized by immigration, illegal immigration, many various policies that are hurting children. I could go on and on and on. It becomes very political. So this sort of tells you, in a snapshot, something about the story. Moving on. Oh, that's great. Commercial art doesn't have to be for profit, but it's always mass-produced. Anything that is mass-produced is considered commercial art. So this brings up the topic of Andy Warhol. I consider him the antichrist of art. I've said that many times in different forums, and people usually laugh. They get a big zing out of that. People who like him hate it when I call him the antichrist of art. But, his whole thing was literally that. I mean, they say that, like, his art expresses the commercialization of American society. Through his art, he's commercializing art. He's robbing the soul of art by doing this. But really, it's not him. It's the art industry that made him, that propped him up, that said he was good, that, made him a millionaire, that, gave him all the press. So who's really in charge here? And everyone behind all of that, they're degenerates. You can fill in the blanks there. Their goal is to destroy American culture, Western civilization, not to lift it up or talk about anything spiritual or meaningful, mythological. No, instead it's vulgar. His studio was called The Factory, and he would tell people what to do. And like he had a production line of people, you do this, you do that, you do that, and they would, like a production line, crank out his garbage prints, and I don't know. I mean, I get the concept of it, but it literally is anti-art. It literally is. So let's move on. Splattercat says, like those terrible Kroger ads, those weird, cheap DEI drawings. Well done, well done. Very nice. Great White Ape is here. Bananarama is my favorite 80s band. Still have a few cassettes. What the heck, dude? He's got the Great Ape theme going there. I like the composition. I appreciate you saying that. I used to play Venus sometimes. I like the original Venus song. That one is groovy. Michael Bush says, hey, howdy, how have you done any past art that's published? So I don't have it like within reach at the moment where I'm sitting at my desk. However, I could show you. Well, first of all, I've been showing my book several times, but within the book, there's stuff that I've published, and I'll pull that out in a second. So, for example, I've published with the Bizarre Archives. I've published with there's a White People Press. White People Press, unfortunately, is defunct. Unfortunately, they produced very, very high quality magazines, and I was interviewed in the magazines, and they were just so great. But I don't know. Something happened with the publisher. I just don't know. It's kind of a mystery. But that was a great run while we had it. What else? What else? Let's show you some more. Okay, here's books that I illustrated. The No College Club by Spencer Quinn. I did the graphic. Well, I published. And I mean, published. So like doing the cover of a book or something is not necessarily publishing. You know, like this book is publishing. You know, my own book. These are illustrations from another book. I didn't write the book, so I'm published with that, though. What else can I tell you? Yeah, you know, there's just different stuff I've done over the years. I published with John Della Rose from Comicsgate. If you guys know anything about Comicsgate, John Della Rose is a big dog in there. And we did a graphic novel. Hold on. Oh, wait. Here's an example of some promo work. This character here was from the graphic novel we did. This character is called Dynamite Thor. He has like dynamite powers. And we were thinking of doing a new book with this other character called Nucla. These guys are public domain superheroes from comic books from the 1930s and 40s and 60s. So anyway, that's kind of in limbo though at the moment. One day I'll have a museum full of art. That'd be great. Please put some of my paintings in it. Let's see. Nice. Okay, happy. Moving on. I'm really glad that I've got some cool people in the chat today. I have some interesting convos while I work. It'd be awfully quiet around here if you weren't here. So I appreciate your company. Zoom in a bit. I have some music on in the background, but I keep getting these like copyright strikes, so I have to kind of not play it too loud, you know? You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Okay, here, turn this off. And this marker is a little dry. I don't know if... Sometimes dry markers are good for certain things. Yeah, there you go. So I was speaking earlier about a show, a live stream that I did earlier today. I wanted to do some commentary on Elon Musk throwing Romans in at the Trump inauguration. You really can just look up the show and see what I had to say about it. But I want to get back to doing more shows like that have some, not just art, basically. I want to have, I'm trying to get some guests on and do shows that are enriching, shows that are interesting and fun and that are plugged into like what's happening. Yeah. So I used to do a lot of that years ago, and I got sideswiped by life. And so I'm kind of making a comeback, and there you go. How long will the stream be? This stream here? I go at least an hour, but sometimes I'll go like an hour and a half. I actually have the day off tomorrow, so I'm not like in a big hurry to finish. Crazy thing happened last night when I was streaming. I got a phone call. A friend of mine was in a car accident like yesterday, and he's okay and whatever. But like he called back, just wanted to discuss the thing with me, whatever. And but I discovered that when people, I use my phone to stream. And if somebody calls me during a stream, it screws up the stream. So I had to like shut down, Let's see what else here. Mr. Shadow says, I thought he was in Hogan's. Not sure who you're referring to. Pyle says, that guy you're drawing, he's turning into something. Yes, this character is called Sheepdog, and sheepdog is a term that people in the military and law enforcement use to describe police and people who. So there's sheep and there's wolves, and then there's sheepdogs in the middle to protect the sheep from the wolves. So they refer to themselves as sheepdogs, and so it's just a kind of lingo in that world, in like the military police culture, and so I thought like I would like to have a character like this because he represents one of the one of the dimensions of nationalism, specifically about Boogaloo Boys. These are dudes that were in the military, or and then like they got out and they're like hyper nationalistic, and they tend to like want to be in militias and things of this nature. And so I thought I should have a character in this story, because this story deals a lot with nationalism and the conflicts of our country coming to terms with, the infiltration of the government, of the loss of law and order, all of these dimensions of politics. So I just thought I need to have a character that represents those things. I don't want to call him a plot device. Like he's a character, he's like part of a team. He's friends with these other characters. Unfortunately, he dies in the story. This bitch kills him. And the point of it is that like you hate villains more when they kill people that you like. You know what I mean? If you're looking at a story, and the fact that she kills this guy specifically symbolizes lawlessness. She's hired by it's too complicated for me to explain. You'll just have to read the story once I get it published. It'll make sense. I promise. Let's see. Love how those girls all had the makeup and poofy hair. Elon, the great, was a woman with a lot of hair. I looked like he hailed. It looked like he hailed. So, like, I'll just kind of reiterate a little bit what I said in my commentary today, is that I believe that was just like a stunt, like a publicity stunt for him to trigger the left, but also to signal to the far right that like he's on our side, and he's not on our side. He's a transhumanist. I don't want to get into like the whole history of Elon here. You can look up stuff if you want. I don't have like that data like at my fingertips at the moment, so I won't get too deep into it. But just for example, like Steve Bannon hates Musk and wants to get him out of the Trump administration. And there's reasons for these things, So, yeah, you'll have. I'd recommend that you just look up the video. Go check out the video, see what I have to say, because I was really in the zone. When I did that video, I really. I used to have okay, so I'm drawing right now, okay, which means like my mind is focused on what I'm doing. This is like riding a unicycle and juggling at the same time here. But when I'm just doing a show like that of some kind of commentary, I can actually concentrate and speak intelligently about something, speak eloquently about something, and I did, I think so. I recommend that you check it out, One of I think the key points of the show is that I feel as if it is Elon Musk doing like, throwing Romans is like a kind of, like a sign in the road on the way to a new era, It's fake, it's the fake right. And that's what he's trying to, he's trying to like get the acceptance of the far right. This is the new war, the new culture war that we're in, is that the left is trying to pretend that they're us. And that's the key point about Elon Musk, doing that he knew would be controversial. But the thing is, we in the far right know that that's bullshit, But at the same time, it's also fun too, in the regard that people can meme it and stuff, and it just draws more attention to some of our talking points and interesting cultural aspects. So that's kind of a thing. But people do have to keep their head on straight. He's not one of us. And that was my message. So, Splattercat says a sheepdog is an individual who is armed and willing to protect those around them who are unable. Precisely. And that's highly, highly noble. I mean, that's a very, very awesome thing. I have a lot of respect for people who do that. I guess that's where I'll stop. What do I want to say? But yeah, they're like something between military soldiers and police. They have that sort of like, somewhere in the middle, Maybe they're probably people who did really well in the service, in the Army, Marines, whatever. And then when they get out, they go into law enforcement because it's just kind of their nature. They're good at it, and it's their calling. You know what I'm saying? So, and the world obviously needs these people. It takes us a lot of courage to be able to do that. My criticism, to an extent, is that, like, how do I put it? Like, police and soldiers in the military, they don't create policy, they enforce it. You see what I'm saying? So the focus is not on them, but on the lawmakers, and who are largely corrupt, or anti-white. And so, you hear these stories of like Ruby Ridge and, you know, grotesque abuses of power and blah, 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 all this stuff that we know about. And you wish that these people in these positions of power would read a fucking book, or like that. I don't know if they have the IQ to get some of the stuff, or maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe it's more of an ego trip and they just like the power. But these are the people that should have taken down the illegitimate government after the election was stolen. But what did they do? They sat on their hands. They did nothing. In fact, they turned their sights on us, the citizens. Like, oh, were you in D.C. on January 6th? Where were you on January 6th? And this is what I'm saying is like it's a good profession, it's a good calling, but only if you are really, really plugged in with like, preserving the rights of the people and not working for the fucking system, working to oppress the people or intimidate the people. That's a whole other topic. It's a thing. I don't know. It's a thing. Anyway, are those Romans heavy? Somebody said that the other day, and I don't get that. Is that a joke of some kind? Throwing Romans? Oh, ha, 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 like physically throwing them. Ha, 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 I get it now. Like a literal throw. Okay, so as long as the Fourth Reich ain't happening, it should be fine. Well, my friend, well. You just stepped on a landmine there, my man. Yeah, yeah, how do I respond to that one? I don't know if anybody in the chat wants to jump in on that one. A sheepdog is more of a type of person, not particularly a professional. Okay. It's time for the fifth. Fifth of what? I don't understand what you mean by that. I would say to Mr. Shadow that history repeats itself. And I think I will leave it there. The trick of it, though, is knowing the truth about history. And you know how they say that, what's the expression that history is written by the victors? The people who win the wars write the history. There's a joke, what's the guy's name? Norm Macdonald. He's like an old Saturday Night Live comedian. And his joke was, isn't it amazing that in all of history, the good guys won every time? Isn't that amazing? And I mean, if you think about it and you get what he's trying to say, is that no, it's, should I have to explain that joke? Whoever won will tell you that they were the good guys. You get my point? You see what I'm saying? They have the power, the position to lie about history, to say, like, if I could tell you what Americans did to Germans after World War II, you would be sick to your stomach. What the Russians did to them, it's a very deep topic. Here's the thing. Here's your homework. Look up a documentary called Europa, the Last Battle. Europa, the Last Battle. And it's fairly long. You don't have to watch it all in one sitting. But it's the truth about World War II that is hidden by the powers that be. And as they say, the truth will set you free. There's also another really good documentary called Parsifal, the hidden think it's The Hidden Story or The Hidden Truth of World War II. Parsifal, The Hidden Story of World War II. I can't quite remember exactly what the title is, but anyway, it's called Parsifal. You can look that up. I like that one better, to be honest. It's shorter. I don't know that it's better, but it's just maybe, a little more concise because it's just shorter. But just in time. Okay, let's run. I'm looking through the chat here. All right, well, it was really great coming across your channel, Ken. Hopefully it'll make it to the future streams. Excellent. Have a nice day and night. That was nice. I heard years ago a funny-looking man came off a U-boat in Argentina. That's right. History is written by the victors. Europa: The Last Battle. Amazing, long but great. Yeah, it's a game changer. It's a huge game changer. You gotta see it. It's one of those like required viewings, in our time. It's kind of like if you're going to college and there's certain courses you gotta take, and then once you pass through them, you know your field better, yeah. It's funny. I could go off on that topic. I'm just. I was actually talking about this the other night. How people have what I call a truth threshold, where you can. Here's the deal. Okay, so we have beliefs, and we base our understanding of the world on those beliefs, and we base our identity on those beliefs. So when information comes along that contradicts those beliefs, most people have what's called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is just kind of what it sounds like. It's like mental noise, mental emotional noise. And it's easier to hate and fight the person who gave you the new data than to actually integrate it and change who you are as a person. Does that make sense? So that happens when, you try to talk about World War II and the actual truth of the history of World War II. And I'm not in the business of trying to like upset people or break their paradigms or something. I kind of am in a way, but not in a way that's like mean-spirited. You see, like I don't do that to hurt anybody. I don't have malicious intent, if that makes sense. And regardless of people believing that you do, but it's important. It's essential to know these truths in order to start the journey for liberation. And well, what kind of liberation? It's all kinds. It's the mental, spiritual, political, but it's essential. And it's hard for a lot of people to start that journey, because a lot of what we do and think is all within a paradigm of consent, meaning I think these things because I'm allowed to think these things. I repeat the talking points of the norm, of the mainstream, because it's accepted. And if I don't go along with them, then I am not accepted. And then I become ostracized. I lose my friend group. People that I love and depend on turn against me. And so when you've got that type of fear working against you, how can you possibly know the truth? You see what I'm saying? I literally asked someone in my family once, I said, if you had to choose between the truth and your friends, which one would you take? And she very, very quickly said, my friends. And what that is cowardice. But at the same time, it's also very real. It's very normal. This is human. Nobody wants to be ostracized. Nobody wants to be banished from their family or their friends. Unfortunately, though, it's the illusory belief systems that people labor under that allow many types of injustices to persevere in our world. That's what the information war is all about. Does that make sense? Wow. Let's turn this up a little bit. Here it comes. Wow. Cray. All right, let's jump around here. Splattercat says, yeah, it's why bringing up that subject is actually quite risky sometimes. Still needs to happen, though. Right. Shadow says, how often do you have deja vu moments? Whew. That's a deep topic right there. On a different level. Or, I guess, a different subject. But I have... I wouldn't call myself like psychic or something like that, but I have... Oh, man, how do I even start this? Let's just say I have a very strong intuition. That's a fairly safe way to talk about it. And, so I've had deja vu moments. I haven't had one in a long time. But I've had several throughout my life. Yeah, I think that there's that kind of like, is this literally, some sort of weird kind of experience I'm having, or is this some sort of brain function that's kind of happening only in my brain, or did time skip a beat in reality? It's a pretty neat question to ask. But yeah, there you go. All right. Have you ever seen an after image? I would need you to define an after image a little more. Are you referring to ghosts? I've seen some phenomenal footage of what appear to be ghosts. pretty, definitely scary in their own way, like unnerving. I've never seen a ghost with my own eyes. I have had paranormal experiences with ghosts. So there's that. But yeah, I'm really fascinated with the paranormal. I kind of look at those things like science that we don't know yet, that like there's, what is it, the old Shakespeare expression, there's more under heaven than dreamt up in your philosophy, something like that. Oh gosh. Mr. Shadow says, like, let's say you look at someone and you see them one place and they move, but you still see them in the place before they moved. Well, I mean, that could just be an optical illusion, unless you're tripping or something. I used to be really into the paranormal and the beyond, and it's one of the things that led me to our scene. Very cool. That actually, I'd like to hear more about that. One thing that happens to me quite a lot, and I don't know if it's like I've got something wrong with my eyes, but I don't want to say frequently, but I can't tell you that there's no time frame I can give you for this, but I see a blue light out of the corner of my eye, and it's like there, and then it just disappears. If I try to look at it physically, it'll go away. And so a side of me is like, okay, you have to see a doctor, or you've got like a guardian angel or something maybe that's kind of watching you or hanging out. I don't know. I can remember, just talk about paranormal stuff. When I was like 13, my grandmother passed away. I was in my art studio room drawing, and just just thinking about her and kind of coping with the grief and this and that. And I had this strange sense of her presence in the room, and like if someone were just walk in the room right now and walk up behind you, even though you're not looking at them, you know that somebody's behind you. And then I felt a very, very distinctive hand placed on my shoulder. I mean, it was, totally real, and nobody was there, and I was like, I just kind of like, it was a rush. It was a huge rush. And I went downstairs and told my mom. It was her mother that passed away. And I was like, this was amazing. This just happened to me. Like, wow, and my mom believed me, I mean, this is the thing. It's like, you can say these things to people, but until they go through this themselves, all they can do is nod their head and say, "Oh, okay, yes." but they don't really know because they didn't feel it themselves. You know what I'm saying? So I just never really expect anybody to believe things of that nature, you know. There is a field of science called near-death experience, NDE, and you can Google it or YouTube it anytime. And so there's an organization that has documented like thousands of near-death experience testimonials. You know, people who died one way or another and then came back. And they tell their stories. And I think something like 80% of the stories are the same. They have the same experience. So that's fairly strong evidence that there is some type of universal after-death experience. You know what I'm saying? Something that I'm particularly interested in is Gnosticism, and like the different people that I've studied in like what do you call it? What's it called? Astral projection. They talk about like the light, and they actually say don't go to the light because that's what sucks you back into the reincarnation process. So that's kind of interesting. It's interesting to know. So I'm going to read some comments here. Let's see. I used to be really into paranormal. We read that. No way. I have the same thing. Oh, really? Shadow, do you have the blue light? Do you have that too? That's phenomenal. Wow. That's pretty crazy. When I was a kid, my parents used to have a Reader's Digest book called Into the Beyond. And it was all about ghosts and the afterlife, ESP, and all kinds of things that I would read that book a lot. That's so cool. That's totally awesome. I would do it too. Mr. Shadow says you should look into Dolores Cannon. Yeah, Dolores Cannon. I know about her. She's amazing. Like, I'll be honest with you, everybody like her that I've researched, and which is quite a lot of people, I compare all of their different stories. And, you know, to try to get think of yourself like a detective, and there's a scene of the crime, and you ask everybody who was there to, you know, tell me, what did you see? And you know, everyone says something about the event. And as a detective, you take notes, and then you start to see, well, what matches up? You know, what did everybody agree on? Like, they all saw the same thing. And what did they not agree on? Like, where are the differences in their stories? You get where I'm going with that? So, like, the idea is that it's sort of taking a more scientific approach to things. I think that we tend to have like an emotional bias to want to believe these things. And I try not to do that. I have it. I'm human. But you know what I mean. I mean, you just try to be as sort of logical as you can, you know. And so there's things that she says that I'm like, yeah, that checks out with like many, many other people, and like what they believe, you know, what they've said, the research they've done, blah, blah, blah. But then she'll say things that to me are like, you know, those are just words that you're saying, you know, and like I don't have any like data or proof that backs it up. I know you believe it, but I can't believe something that I don't have proof for. Does that make sense? So I just encourage people to have a healthy skepticism. Does that make sense? But yeah, she's definitely one of the big wigs in that whole kind of spiritual field, if you will. Yeah. Someone who I'm really cautious about is the guy that channels Bashar, something Anka, I forget his first name. There's just something about him that like I can't put my finger on it, but I just feel like he's lying. There's I mean it's in the sense of like this is probably 65% true, but then there's all this other stuff kind of mixed in there that I don't know if I can believe it or not. Time will tell. I mean, he's one of the big guys on Alien Contact. There was something, and not only that, like let's say for sure, let's say okay, the dude definitely channels aliens or an alien. Well, how do we know that the alien's not lying to us? And he has his own agenda. How do we know? What do we have to know these things, to compare these things to? You see what I'm saying? So you gotta be careful. You just have to have a healthy skepticism. That's all I'm saying. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's read on. You should look. I read that. I've never had the privilege of having any paranormal experiences that I'm aware of. My mind is too analytical, maybe. What can I say? I feel like there actually are meditations and things that one can do to increase these kinds of abilities. Like, sort of, I don't really like to use the term psychic, but like clairvoyance. There are natural abilities that people have, apparently. And then there's like meditations you can do to improve on those things. That book and seeing the movie Ghostbusters I saw when I was a kid made me into being into paranormal and beyond. Totally, dude, for sure. I got it yesterday. I thought it was crazy, just the light, though. What, we're talking about the blue light? Is that what we're talking about? Because I actually had that happen like during this show. But I mean, it's such a common thing with me that I don't make a big whoop about it. It's been going on for years. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. Even if I could flip a switch to see those things, I'm not sure I'd want to. I already have enough trouble with sleeping. Oh, wow. I mean, there's a lot going on here in this conversation. This is not small stuff. There's an interesting story. Apparently in Vietnam, they had come up with some kind of night vision goggles. This is obviously going way back. So whatever the technology was, they created this new technology, and they gave their soldiers the night goggles, for battle. But the soldiers that were using it stopped using it because they said that they were seeing demons. So there's on the spectrum of light, we see very little. We see very, very little. And it's the point is essentially that like these different ghosts and beings and what have you, they're just floating around. They're just around. There's a guy that I follow on Instagram who talks about parasitical entities that attach to us energetically. And I know that a lot of people think that's kind of like hippy-dippy talk, but without your bioelectric energy, you'd be just a lump of dead flesh. Our energy is what makes us alive. Everything on an atomic level is energy. So it's not foofy, fluffy, hippie bullshit. And if there's parasites in the physical realm, why wouldn't there be parasites in the spirit realm or the energy realm? So the advice this particular guy is giving is that what you want to do is work on healing your traumas, and then you'll have you will create a mental, spiritual, energetic environment that they cannot survive in. They cannot feed off of these negative energies. And so that's pretty awesome. So there's it's sort of where psychology and spirituality cross over. What's funny? You can it's all intent. That's beautifully said. It's all intent. Yeah, I like that. Hook is here. Hey, bud. If you get that from some NVGs, stay away from thermals. That's straight predator mode. I don't know what NVG stands for, so I would like to reply to what you're talking about. There are parasites in the human realm too. Well, we know about them. We know all about them. Night vision goggles. Thank you. I'm not a sheepdog, so I wouldn't know those abbreviations. Stay away from thermals. They're straight predator mode. Interesting. That's pretty interesting. I feel like I want more music. Hold on a sec. Beep. And there'll definitely be a commercial first, though. Gotta have commercials every day. Otherwise, your meaning. I'm trying to. Okay, and the skip button is on. And click. Okay, happy times. All right, did anybody see my live stream earlier today about Elon Musk throwing Romans? There was one tiny glitch in the show where like a commercial came on after or in the middle of the clip of Elon, but other than that, I thought it was a really good little stream. Yes, I did. Oh, cool. Could you share your thoughts on it? Hook says, saw the Roman, but not the stream. Do you have vivid dreams? I practiced lucid dreaming for a long time. I urge you to look into the practice of lucid dreaming. There's techniques, but there's also supplements you can take that chemically trigger lucid dreaming. It's very strong. And yeah, there's a lot I can say about that, But let's see, Mr. Shadow. Hook says, love it, but don't trust him for even a second. Yeah, that's the general message, is he's not our guy. But I just was kind of saying, like, that event was something like what would I call it? Like a road sign in the new Trump era of what I'm calling the fake right. And the fake right is people in the deep state who know that we are winning and that we are the direction of where culture and politics are going. And so they're trying to gain our trust and be like, oh, look, I'm one of you. It's kind of like, what's his face? Zuckerberg going on Joe Rogan and being like, oh, well, I had to do that thing because the government told me to. And now I'm your buddy. Now you can trust me. And look, I turned off the this and that. And it's just, they're trying to cuddle up to us. I keep hoping that Trump is going to just like fire a lot of these people, but not likely. You know, it's just like, don't hold your breath. It's where we're at. What have we got here? Yeah, it was a publicity stunt. But it's more than a publicity stunt. It's like, why a Roman? You know what I mean? Like, he could have done anything else. But why did he throw a Roman, though? Because that's obviously, you know, like associated with Nazis. Like, Republicans don't sympathize with Nazis. You see what I'm saying? Who does, though? The far right. You see what I'm saying? So it's just this. I think he's still kind of doing, what do you call it? Damage control from the HB1 debacle, trying to make himself look cool. Anyway, let's read here. I'm of the same mind of you about doing it mostly for public. So he just mainstream throwing Roman. I know. I've been doing it all the time. Anyway, can you tell me about them? Yes, I will in a moment. To get to the lefties in our detour. Throwing a Roman in that massive setting is sus as fuck. Totally, dude. That's why I made that video, because I'm like, guys, don't get all excited about this. This is not, he's not our guy. Come on. Anyway, Spider-Cat says we're talking, which is what he probably wanted. Yeah, that's this. There's a play being made there. Okay, so I'm gonna get to Mr. Shadow. Lucid dreaming. Okay, so lucid dreaming, there's literally parts of your brain that do different things. That, you know, it's biological. So a certain frontal in the front of your brain, it's that shuts down during sleep where you're dreaming, and that part of your brain is sort of more, you know, handles like logical thinking and these types of things. And dreams can be just absurd, like they're just one damn thing after the other, and they're very weird. We're a lot of times, of course, most of us don't remember what happened in our dreams. There's nightmares. There's dreams of sex. There's, you know, dreams that represent the fears that you have, like deep set subconscious fears. A lot of times, dreams have a lot to do with your mind organizing information and even trying to self-heal from various traumas that one might have had. So these are things you got to kind of know that's the landscape there. The subconscious, so lucid dreaming is coming in direct contact with the subconscious mind. And so you have to ask, well, what is the nature of the subconscious mind? You know, we know the nature of the stomach and the heart and the spleen and the nervous system. So just look at it biologically, you know, even though your subconscious mind is like a circus that just keeps throwing images at you, and they morph and they don't connect, and they're absurd, and it can be maddening in a sense. Like, you in many ways cannot make sense of it, you know. But once you wake up inside your dream, you now have the mental capacity to mold the dream, to do anything that you can imagine. Yeah, of course, you fly and you do those fun things like that, you know. You can envision environments and be in those environments. You can imagine beings or creatures or anything in those worlds, and they're just like NPCs. They don't have their own will, if you will. However, in dreams, in the subconscious mind, in that realm, you can be visited by entities, and I have got lots of experience with that. like several times a week. That kind of shit happens to me. I through lucid dreaming, I've learned how to not allow those beings to bother me or hurt me. Sometimes they're benevolent, sometimes they're very good and beautiful. I guess they're just spirits of some kind or another, and they're kind of floating into your. So this gets pretty deep. The mind is the consciousness. The mind, you know, I don't know that I have the language to actually describe these things properly, but it's basically like a field, and it's an infinite field, and inside that field, all minds exist. So this is why certain types of psychic phenomenon happen. This is why people can do remote viewing and such, because the consciousness is a field. So I shouldn't say mind per se. Consciousness and mind are different, in in which I think we all can just see that. But so you do want to have a purpose. Like, why is it that I want to do this remote viewing? What is my purpose? What's my goal with this? I wouldn't just kind of like do it like you're experimenting with drugs or something. Like, don't go into it with a kind of a lazy, haphazard attitude. In Tibetan Buddhism, they have something called dream yoga. So they practice meditation in their dreams. And it's not, when I say meditation, it's not just sitting there, om, 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 no, there's visualizations and various things that happen, but that's a whole other topic. So I will say there was one lucid dream that I had where it was very, very dark. It was like a kind of a, I don't know how to describe this. So it was this kind of like a cabin on the water somewhere, and the light was emanating from me, like I was the source of light. So, but outside of that, it was just darkness and the unknown, because you're in the subconscious. There is nothing there. It's not a physical space. And so I just had this idea of like sitting down in the water, and kind of the water is just like I'm sitting down and it's sort of just up to my waist, and I have my hands in the water, and I'm kind of looking at things and looking around, and I was just like, there's nobody here, like there's nobody. I mean, yeah, at the time I didn't have these like beings that were interacting with me, but and I just thought, I don't know, I'm not sure that I really want to be here. It's sort of lonely, and so I just kind of let go and went back to sleep. But since I started practicing lucid dreaming, now pretty much permanently I have the ability to just randomly wake up in the middle of the night in while I'm sleeping, or I have enough capacity with it that I don't know how to say this, but like frequently I can be aware that I'm dreaming. They're not full on lucid dreams, like 100%, but I almost every night I at least know at some point in the night, oh, I'm dreaming, and that's a good thing, because if whatever whatever's happening in the dream, you don't have to be afraid. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to feel like you're out of control or something. In fact, you're more creative with it. And if you ever feel like you're being attacked by a negative, a nightmare or something, you can literally kill it. Like I'll imagine I have a shotgun and I'll just blow it away, and then move on with my dream. And then I'm not scared. I'm not nervous. I don't have to be. Now, that's not 100% of the time. I mean, I've had, I don't want to call them demons, but like beings that don't have a good intention. I'll just kind of put it that way. And if they want to, they can fuck with you. They will just come at you hard, and then it'll scare the shit out of you, and you like wake up immediately. You know what I mean? Having the ability to wake up suddenly, even though it's jarring, is kind of a like a fail safe. It's like a safety cord, and you just pull the cord and you're out. You're fine. That doesn't happen a lot. Thank God, because it's really horrible when it does. But anyway, these are some experiences in that world. Let me read here. Throwing Romans math says we're talking, which is probably one. My VPN hiccuped as soon as I posted my last message. Oh, that's funny. Gondorian says, speaking of dreams, speaking of dreams, I have very vivid dreams. Most of them involve me being back in school. But as soon as I wake up, I can feel them fade away. Yeah, remembering your dreams is one of the hardest things. Part of the dream yoga practice is to keep a notebook by your bed, and every time you do wake up, jot down real quickly what you remember, and do that every night and several times in the night. Another thing to do in your daytime, I'm going to back out. Let me show you a little trick. Okay. During the day, randomly, look at your hands. Just stop any time of the day and just stop and look at your hands. And namely, and just be like, look at them. And kind of notice the details of the nooks and crannies and this and thatties and whatever. And then do that a bunch of times throughout the day randomly. And then in your dream, try to remember to stop and look at your hands. And that will trigger your mind to wake up. It's one of the somewhat well-known techniques for waking up in your dreams. Let's see, speaking of dreams, I hate to say it, but I have a lot of dreams of being back in school too. I hate that. I hate that. Like because it's always something like, I didn't pass this one class, or I need to get these credits, and like I'm like my age, but I'm sitting around a bunch of teenagers, and it's humiliating, and I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't be here, and it's awkward, and like dreams are kind of shitty that way, but if I can wake up in my dream, however, I can be like, oh fuck this, I'm out of here, and just like move to create another environment and leave the school. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the benefits of lucid dreaming is you're in a situation and you're like, shit, this sucks. I don't like this dream. It's just like changing a TV channel. So. Have you tried drawing them? Actually, yes, I have. There was a period in time when my art was about my dreams, and I drew a bunch of them, and they're creepy. They're a bit creepy. Here's one of the weirder, probably like slightly disturbing weird thing that has happened in some of my dreams is some of the NPCs appear to become conscious. When I say, I think you know what I mean by NPCs. They're just dream characters, and then I might be manipulating them because I'm awake in my dream, and I'm like the master of the dream, if you will, and then suddenly they become aware, like self-conscious, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm in here with them, It's sort of like AI robots becoming sentient, and then you're like, I can't really control that. They have their own consciousness. Sorry, and then you don't know what they're gonna do. But they're still very robotic, though. And then you just switch up the dream. You just, go to another place, imagine yourself in another situation. Yeah. It's not, I mean, I think it's different for everybody because it just kind of depends on who you are, what your psychological baggage is, what your goals are with it. But it's I think a really essential thing for understanding consciousness, understanding the mind, the function of the mind. There's certainly something spiritual about it, but I guess it's up to each person to kind of play that out and figure that out for themselves. I guess that's a fairly decent way to put it. I suppose so. All right, what else have we got here? Got to go. Catch you in the chat later. Thanks. Cheers. Wing It's here. Nice progress, Donald Kent. Keep on a drawing. Yay. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of work done on this page. How you doing, Mr. Wing It? How goes the wing in it? What's shaking? Oh. Alrighty, we've got this one. Have to kind of, yeah. Mr. Shadow says, my art is inspired by dreams. Good. That's cool. I think that it's a self-exploration in many ways, and it works. I don't know, how do I put this? Like, dreams and art are they're like cousins in a way. The art in many ways is creating a world with your mind. Am I not doing that right now? You see what I'm saying? I'm using a tool, but this is a world inside my mind that I'm manifesting, making real and in real time. It's just that you don't have a brush, you have your subconscious, you have your imagination. You create with mind matter, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Dream matter is maybe a better term for it, Quite fascinating, quite fascinating. Let's see. Yeah. Has anybody seen Nosferatu? Any of you guys seen Nosferatu? I freaking loved it. I loved it. I'm having like an art fight, like a movie fight with a friend of mine who hated it, which is kind of terrible, in the sense that like we disagree pretty strongly about it, but he's a good friend or whatever. It's not like a fight. No, I mean the most recent one, of course. So let's see. Mr. Shadow says, "I've seen different realities. I've seen wars in your dreams." Yeah. So, excuse me. Have you heard of the Akashic Record? I think you probably have if you know about Dolores Cannon. You might be tapping into those fields of information. That could be, that's possible. All right. The original and let's see, Rams Paul and his old lady hated it. Really, I'm like, I mean, I don't hate Rams Paul, or don't get this wrong or whatever, but like him and I as like personality types could not be more different. He seems to be more like the kind of guy that would like to see a Walt Disney movie or something like that. Like I can embrace the darkness. I love the aesthetic. I'm a different person. I think that it appeals to a certain kind of person. What kind of intrigued me about the film is how many couples were in the audience when I went. I don't think of that film as a couples film. I don't know if they knew what they were getting into, but whatever. Anyway, I've talked to an alien that was a paladin. Do you mean a Pleiadian? I'd like to hear more about that, for sure. That would be most interesting. I would love to contact the Pleiadians. That's kind of been a thing of mine with all this, like, just all the new things going on with like UFOs, orbs and everything that's going on right now. It really, we're getting pretty close to disclosure and contact and all this. It's just an ongoing thing. And man, I'd like to be a person who makes contact. I feel like that would be a cool thing to do, Granted, I don't take these things like, oh, it's, they come in peace or whatever, like I don't know for sure what these agendas are, but I'm still working through it. I'll just put it that way. Ladies love vampires. He was very tall, 6 sons tall, and miles wide. Wow, you're on a whole other level there, man. That's pretty serious what you're talking about. What was the message? What did you guys talk about? would be good to know. Stephen Greer has put out a show, kind of a blog that apparently is going to be about, I haven't followed up on it because like everything's been the inauguration and Trump right now, but apparently there's some very serious disclosure coming out real soon. If you're following Stephen Greer, you kind of already know, what is going on. It's more or less, it's got to come from people inside the system, who are like whistleblowers, But more than that is the idea of giving this technology to people and freeing us from the system, the system of, economic enslavement, We were floating in space, and he said that this world was a paladin world and that they were coming back. I'm not sure what he means by a paladin world. I'd like you to explain that. Winged says, have you seen Late Night with the Devil? Rams Paul said that was his favorite of the year. I have not seen it. I've never even heard of it, so I'd have to look that up. What's the movie about? Shadow says, and I watch the world like it were a marble. Where I'm at in my development progress, I'm essentially agnostic at this point, and I don't know, it's the kind of thing that like these things are like so serious that whenever I talk about them, it cheapens the topic. So like I just automatically stop and like silence myself. Sometimes that happens. You have to kind of treat words with a little bit of caution or respect, This is going to look sick when it gets colored. Like, I cannot wait to get this digitally colored. It's going to look disgusting. And I spell the name wrong. I have scars synonymous with abductees. Are you serious, Winged? You serious? There is this, in the UFO community is well known, but there's a doctor in California, I think it's California, whose specialty has been like removing objects from people who have been abducted. And he's kept these objects, and they're little pieces of metal that are fused to nerves. And they've done, whatever research on the metals, and they're a composite of some types of metals that we know, and then other metals that don't exist, on whatever charts we have about metals or whatever. So I think that's pretty conclusive, I'd certainly say that there's a level of proof there, A lot of these people will go and have like hypnosis done on them so that they can sort of remember what happened, In 1977, a live television broadcast goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living room. Late Night with the Devil. Yes, yeah, on the nerve thing, that's right. So this is like what is it, a Netflix series, or like what is, it's in theaters now, or I don't know. Well, what do you know? This is a kind of a werewolfy dude coming out here. Theaters last year. I think it's currently on Shudder. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like horror films, but I just don't think there's many good ones out there. Like what I hate jump scares. I think those are stupid as hell. Like jump scares is just so stupid. It's just like that's not horror. That's like a type of a gag or something. It's just annoying. I think one of the most terrifying films that I saw was Silence of the Lambs. There's a variety of reasons why, but I guess part of it is just because in some ways it blends in with reality. There's something about these. There's something disgusting and disturbing about like transsexuals as well. I think they make like great villains in like film and stuff like that because they're just deeply disturbing. Anyway, there's a thing. I don't know if you guys can hear the music. I don't want to get a YouTube strike. I got one recently for copyrights. But I mean, like, you can't. I'm not playing the song on the show. It's in the background. You can hear a little bit here and there. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of comes through, but it's, I don't know. It's just stupid. It's YouTube. It's annoying. Shadow says, I've seen orange orbs above the treetops way before drones were built. That's good. I don't watch movies these days. I'm usually watching folks like you. Huh. Yeah, I don't have a TV. YouTube is my primary source. I'm always kind of following various philosophers and, I don't know, there's just so much to know. There's so much to learn that, like, yeah, I like to be entertained and watch a movie now and then or something, but, like, I just am really hungry for knowledge. I think that's the thing. I saw a clip recently, and this isn't an original idea, but the gentleman has a lot of experience with orbs, and he was explaining that they are living beings, But he says that in some cases they're portals through which angels come. Like apparently all of these orbs are, according to this guy, they are benevolent, that they're angelic. And you kind of almost get a feeling like that they are too. And there's certain appearance of these orbs in like old Christian art and things like that. It's quite wonderful. And then there's James Gilliland's what is it called? Like a ranch out in I think it's Washington State, where you can camp out and see orbs and stuff like that. I have an orb in a photograph that was taken of my son and I, but I never saw one myself. Anyway, dudes, it's 11:30. I've been going since 9. So I'm a bit on the tired side here, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up. Very, very interesting conversation today. I almost finished this page, actually. It's pretty sweet. Good stuff. So I really enjoy spending time with you guys, talking with you, sharing this experience of my art with you. And wow. So like, please share this video in your social media networks. Tell all your friends. And we'll see you again. I will see you on the flip side. So God bless and keep on rocking in the free world.